Hello, welcome in. Jason, welcome in. Hope everyone's doing well. It is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Well, 9 minutes shy of 7 p.m. Eastern. So give me a moment, please. I'm going to be sharing this out. If you guys wouldn't mind doing the same, I would appreciate that immensely. So we're going to have quite a bit of a show tonight. There's a lot that we really need to unbox of things that are going on. Whether we're going to talk about the Caravan, the two presidential rallies that were held, one by President Obama, one that was held by President Trump. We gotta unbox a little bit. Maybe that's not the right term. We're going to talk a little bit about a box that blew up when it comes to George Soros. And some of the, more importantly with that one, the resulting views of it, the optics from that. So we got those going on. I think that's, and then we're also, of course, going to be talking a little bit about the midterm. So 2 weeks from today, the big midterms coming down to the wire. We'll get to see just who has a better grasp on the country, who actually understands it. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. Let me welcome you guys in. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for sharing this out. And all right, I had to end that mute. I had to mute that. All right. So thank you guys all for the support. You guys really do make this this feasible. I really wouldn't do this without you guys. So thank you guys, every single one of you guys, for joining in. Whether you guys make it in, whether this is your first episode that you're hopping in on, or whether you're a routine repeat offender of listening to the Bearded Truth, I want to thank you. It truly does mean a lot to me, and thank you guys all for everything you guys have done so far. I know I've been challenged by a lot of you, and I appreciate that. So thank you guys. But like I was saying, I am Mr. Merca, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Thank you for joining in. It is Tuesday night. It will be 7 p.m. Eastern in about 6 minutes, so we are a little bit early. We're rocking and rolling in the right way. So got an hour show. Gonna be running about till about 8 p.m. Eastern. Got a lot to unfold for you guys. Give you guys my optics on everything. So with that, I think we should get started. Let's see here. Let's start off with the Trump rally. So last night, Trump goes down to Texas, goes down to Houston. He wants to talk to his base, talk to the Republicans, talk to the conservatives, and talk in favor of Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz is the guy that Donald Trump and Ted Cruz didn't get along during the presidential election. They were obviously rivals. They were both within the pool of 17 candidates for the Republican Party, and they were not fond of each other, right? Lion Ted and Pathological Liar were the names that they were calling each other. But last night, right, they were willing to put aside all of their differences and actually come out and speak positive about each other. And I saw a lot of people getting upset about this. Trump comes out and he speaks highly of Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was one of the men, one of the architects around the tax cuts. He was a big fundamental push for a lot of things that Trump has been successful on during his presidential tenure so far. His year and 7 months, or 9 months, sorry. So Ted Cruz was a big part of this, and has been able to go beyond his personal opinions and help out and support. And people were upset that President Trump would show support to Ted Cruz because either A, they don't like Ted Cruz, B, they still hold the grudge against him, or whatever the case is. And I want to point out something, right? President Trump is going to contested areas. He's doing what Hillary Clinton couldn't have done during the 2016 election, going to contested areas to pull votes to ensure victory. So he was fantastic in that sense, right? It was a massive showing, right? I think it was 20,000 people in the arena. Just a massive showing. I think there was 100,000 people that wanted to register to show up. So it was truly a spectacle. And so Trump comes out there to ensure Ted Cruz's victory. Now we know Beto O'Rourke. We know that he's for whatever reason, right? His Trump derangement syndrome is just to the right temperature. That he's been getting a lot of support. It's not based off of what he can do. It's not based off of what he has done. It's based off of he doesn't support Trump. He is the only senator candidate to actually campaign on the idea of impeaching Trump. And yes, he did. And so Beto O'Rourke is the Democrats' philosophy for the 2018 midterms, and that is, I don't like Trump, I don't like his agenda, I don't like his narrative, vote me in, and that's going to be it, right? I will oppose him. That's going to be good enough. And so that's all Beto O'Rourke has been. That's all he really will be. But President Trump comes out there and speaks truth about what Ted Cruz has done for people, and he's pointing to actual pieces of legislation that were passed and the help that Ted Cruz has done. Now Ted Cruz comes back and he's fired up. He's feeding off of the energy. He's building up off of the energy from Trump and his supporters, right? We've seen Trump at his rallies, and it's undeniable how much energy is there, right? If you guys are a Seattle Seahawks fan of the NFL, right, you guys know there's a 12th man. Right, and that's because they have their stadium set up in a way that just the sound just reverberates so well, and the crowd is so loud already that it just magnifies on itself, and that's really what we see with Trump's base. And so with them being so energized because of Trump, that was also being transcended to Ted Cruz. I think that this is really going to give a healthy and just a healthy bump. Like, this is going to push Ted Cruz to a guaranteed win. I don't see Beto O'Rourke winning on this seat. I don't see Ted Cruz leaving. I'm not always the biggest fan of Ted Cruz, but Ted Cruz definitely out of those two, right? Playing the lesser of two evils, or playing this or that, right? I would rather have Ted Cruz, and I think that President Trump really was able to pull this out for him. And it's, like him or not, that's really what Trump has been able to do. It just came out yesterday that President Trump has one of the highest approval ratings 2 weeks out from the first midterm of any presidential term, right? He was sitting at around 47%. Now, 40% is usually the cusp that people want to talk about. 40% is where you say, all right, if you're above 40%, it's more likely that you're going to see a favorable election during that time. So he's 47%. He's pushing it. He's pushing some pretty high numbers right now in the approval ratings. This is going to really solidify the Senate. You can almost guarantee that the Senate will be held by Republicans come March 9th. Or not March 9th, November 9th, when all the votes have been counted. We can almost guarantee that the Senate is going in favor of Republicans. Now, for the House, that's still up to debate. That's still something that we're gonna have to take a better peek at. But I don't know. I'm really torn on that. I'm really torn on the idea of it being a toss-up, or if it's leaning towards the GOP, or if it's leaning towards the Democrats. But we'll have to see how that plays out. It's going to be interesting. It's surely going to be interesting. And the results of this, I realize we're getting way off track because we start off with Trump's rally. But the results of this, what we're going to see is we're going to see a doubling down. If Democrats don't or if they don't gain the House, if they don't gain the Senate, and they obviously cannot gain the presidency during this election, you'll see them double down on their lack of civility, on their outrage, on their hysteria, on their Trump derangement syndrome, right? Is going to be the worst thing ever. They're really going to kick it up a notch. They're going to start kicking, fighting and punching in every way possible, whether it's metaphorical or physical, right? We're going to see some serious degradation of civility in this country. And we'll look at our time right now and see where they are, and we'll say that's child's play. Now, if they do gain something, let's say they gain the House. They gain the House, bills will be a little bit harder to pass. So they'll slow down. They'll make Trump more of a stagnant president during the rest of this term. Not much will change. If they get the Senate, if they somehow flip the Senate and they control the Senate, you can say bye-bye to pushing Ruth Bader Ginsburg's replacement. So we won't be seeing another Supreme Court justice should that happen during his first term. We won't see very many judicial nominees, right, getting pushed out there to the lower courts. We'll be seeing a huge stoppage there. The one thing I did miss on both the House and on the Senate is there will be articles of impeachment. If they win the House, there will be articles of impeachment pushed. If they're in the Senate, they'll be begging for it. They will be begging. Every day you'll see them go, all right, House, you guys got to put out these articles of impeachment. Why? Because I want it. Put it in there. Let's get it going, right? Despite the fact that they do need the 60 votes for that. They will still push for it. They will still try whatever they can in order to, flip some of the liberal conservatives, if you will. So this midterm, right? A lot of people have been saying it, and I'm not a fan of when people say this is the most important one. This is the most important election of my lifetime. This is certainly something that is important. This is something that because of how far divided this country is, because of the divide between the conservatives or the right wing and the left wing, because of the divide is so large that a mere flip in one House, one Senate, right, is absolutely catastrophic. So in the severity of outcomes, yes, absolutely, this is going to be an important one. Are we going to stop and impede President Trump? Are we going to enable President Trump to be able to steam ahead? That's that is really what's laying out there for this midterm. So yes, it is a huge election. It's a huge discussion, and we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I just wish that Libertarian Party would just win all across the board, but probably not. I instantly regret that decision. I know plenty of libertarians out there that would not be in favor of, but we are all individuals, and that's the way we should be. So back to the Trump rally, right? So 20,000 people showing up, 20,000 people there, plenty of people being turned away at the door, not being allowed in, right? They weren't allowed to be vetted. They weren't allowed to be checked out on their merit if they were worthy of coming into this Trump rally. It was first come, first serve, essentially. And huge energy. The media was focusing, right? They were hypersensitive about this word or that word was out of place, or this lie or that lie, and they completely missed the entire message that was being sent. And I think that this just shows that they're repeating themselves from the 2016 election all over again. Ignore the big signs and focus on the typo. Focus on the ding in the sign. But they missed the entire forest because of the tree. So it's interesting the way that that's unfolding. Trump, when he goes on these rallies, he's been rallying like crazy. It's amazing to see somebody of his age, of his stature, actually going out there and really putting on a really good show for people, right? Hitting a lot of important topics that ring true for a lot of Americans. It's amazing. Now we'll go over to Nevada. Now former President Obama, went into Nevada for a Democratic senator candidate named Jackie Rosen. Now, President Obama had a lot of things to say. He was supposed to be coming out there in order to stump, in order to help, in order to support Jackie Rosen. So he had set up a 38-minute speech. Now, if you wanted to support somebody with a 38-minute speech, do you think that you should talk about them, or do you think that you should talk about yourself 92 times? 92 times President Obama referenced himself, talked about himself, or in some way was self-centered in its entire capacity. It's amazing. It's looking at President Obama's speech from last night. It just shows the egotistical side of Obama. It shows why maybe he does get along with the Clintons so well, why he does get along with so many predominant Democrats, and that's because of the ego. And I wonder why he doesn't get along better with maybe President Trump, because as much as I do like some of the things that President Trump has done, I think we should all agree that he does have a little bit of an ego to him. By a little bit, yes, he has an ego. Maybe they don't like it whenever they have somebody that challenges for the bigger ego. Maybe that's why the Clintons and the Obamas don't like him. But so Obama said a lot of absolutely stupid things during his speech. Where do we start with Obama? Where do we start? So when it comes to Obama, I want to flash back to 2015, 2016, during the campaign, during the election season. President Obama said, "Hey, look, we've got a really healthy 2.5% GDP growth. We got a really healthy 2% GDP growth, and that's as high as we're gonna get. We're gonna get only up to this high. That's as far as the economists say. That's as far as I say it. Jobs aren't coming back. Manufacturing jobs aren't coming back. None of this is coming back. This is as good as it gets, American people. This is as good as it gets." And he said, President Trump, what is he going to do? Wave a magic wand in order to bring back jobs? What is he going to do? How is he going to accomplish this stuff? Now, you take that and you put it into the context of some of the things that President Obama was saying last night. He was saying, hey, remember who started the economic growth. Remember who was able to come in during a giant depression from the 2008 housing market crash, who was able to have a super slow, lethargic growth over 8 years. Remember that guy. That's the guy that you guys need to remember when you guys come out and vote in the midterm elections in 2 weeks. You guys got to remember, I was the one that held a slow growth for so long. It's great that he was able to maintain a slow growth. But when you're in a ditch, it's hard to get lower. It's hard to go lower. The only way really is to come out. So President Obama trying to take credit for the growth now. I think anyone with a sense of objectivity can see that maybe, just maybe, it might be the reduction in regulations. Maybe, just maybe, it might be the corporate tax cuts being cut. Maybe, just maybe, it's a lot of the tax cuts, the idea that we're going to bolster the markets here, the manufacturing, the distribution, the oil, the natural gas in our country. Maybe it's all of these things that are helping build up the confidence of the American spenders in order to ensure that they continue. Welcome in, Kimmy. Ensure that they continue spending, which helps the economy grow. So we don't really need to look at this. We really don't need to look at this like President Obama deserves the credit in this. He deserves the credit for being able to have the economy continue on the climb. We don't give him a good climb. We don't give him a strong climb, but there was a continual slight drudging up the slow growth path. So he gets credit for that, sure. But when we compare that to what we have, what we've had since President Trump came into office, it's really not a comparable thing. It's disgusting. So here's So the economy side of things, obviously, President Obama is a little bit misguided on this. He's misrepresenting a lot of that discussion. It's what they have to do. They have to find some reason, some grounds to grab onto and just die on that hill because they really don't have much. He also wanted to talk a little bit about Obamacare. So this is from CBS News article. Obama also took issue with Republicans who have been saying that they will protect patients with pre-existing conditions while threatening to repeal the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. The former president said, and I quote, "Let me say something as the man who passed the law that protects people with pre-existing conditions from being discriminated against. They have no way of protecting people with pre-existing conditions in anything they've proposed. They're just making it up." So here's the fundamental issue, right? Is that you have President Trump coming out and being in favor of pre-existing conditions, right? I've spoken against this plenty of times. If you guys continually listen to me, you guys will see when I stand against what President Trump does on principle. He is in favor of pre-existing conditions and ensuring that they are protected. And so he's saying, and nothing that they've proposed. Now, there's been a lot of bills. There's been a lot of bills that have been proposed that have been shot down by the Republican leadership that have had the pre-existing condition in there. There's been that. So it's a full-out lie in what he said, but it's also completely mischaracterizing people. And it's the one thing that is really frustrating in our American political system right now, is that we just mischaracterize the other side in order to vilify them. Why can't we be objective? Why can't we look at this and say, look, even if I hate this president, even if I hate the last president, even if I hate the president before that, I can at least look at them. I can put their attributes, put their bills up. I can put anything that they did, and I can put it on a scale, and I can tell you if it's good or if it's shit. Why can't we do that? It's a lost skill in this country as a whole. Instead, what they have to do is they just have to say, look, they're just making it up. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So I wish that President Obama would lie a little bit less. I wish that he would, especially when he wants to go. I appreciate it. Thank you, Wizard. Especially when President Obama wants to call out President Trump for the lies. I don't think that it would be. You can be. I don't think it's acceptable to be disingenuous while also calling somebody else disingenuous. You have to be honest if you're going to call somebody a liar. It's not a good thing. Unless you're saying, look, I'm a liar and I know what a liar looks like. I know what a liar acts like. If you're doing that, absolutely, you have free reign. But if you're going to try and act like you are on some moral high horse, and that horse is building nothing but lies and deceit and misleading your following, then you have no right, you have no moral authority in order to call somebody else disingenuous or a liar or attack them for misspeaks or untruths, right? How about we hold both sides accountable? That would be nice. That would be beautiful, would it not? So Obama has his rally, right? He has his rally, 38-minute speech, referenced himself 92 times, and to compare it to Trump's 20,000 people, I've read or I've heard that he was pulling in about 2,000 people. Is this what is actually is this what the turnout's going to look like? Is this what the turnout for the midterm is going to look like? There are plenty of studies out there. There are plenty of discussions that are happening that say that may be the way that it's going. A lot of the voter registration in the last couple of months have been heavily in favor of Republicans. We've seen, I think it was like a 7% growth for Republicans, but only a mere like 2% growth for Democrats. So we're seeing a larger growth for the Republican. We're seeing a surge, and this is all just being filled in from the midterm mishaps. The midterm mishaps, right? What do I mean by midterm mishaps? What has happened in the past, I don't know, 2 months that has led to Democrats having egg on their face that hurts their chances? Well, the first one was Christine Blasey Ford and the way that entire ordeal played out. When you want to forego all the facts, all the evidence, and just say, because she made an accusation, she's 100% accurate and we have to believe her. And then you go after the other person and without anything supporting your claim, right? That hurts your side by the undecideds, by the independents, and of course by your political opposition. So they put a big egg on their face for that one. When they continued on with the other accusations, or the other allegations from like Swetnick, that too genuinely hurt their momentum, hurt their optics, hurt the way that people were looking at them. So that entire Kavanaugh situation, giant midterm mishap. This was something that the Republicans kind of planned, right? When they were setting up and going through this nomination process, they wanted it last moment. They wanted something to go wrong. And so it unfolded the way that it did. A lot of people were worried that the FBI investigation was going to take longer, that we were going to actually see this go after the midterms, and then put a question mark onto the idea of Kavanaugh being appointed. He got through it, so it worked out in their favor on this time, and so big mishap there. So not only did the Republicans get a lot of support by putting Kavanaugh in there, because if you listen to the mainstream media, what they portrayed Kavanaugh as was a serious advocate for the Constitution as it was written in the original intent of the Constitution, which honestly he's not. But so it seemed like a big win for Republicans, and then it also for the independents, for the undecideds, that was a huge loss for the Democrats. So you had the Democrats losing and the Republicans winning, and on both accounts. So you had a big mishap there. You had another big mishap that happened with Senator Elizabeth Warren, right? She comes out. She didn't need to come out and publicize her DNA results, especially at that very moment. I think that she would have done well by looking at them, like actually looking at them and saying, 6th to 10th generation away. Do I really want to put this out there? Do I really want to put it out there that I am somehow a full-blooded Native American by having less than the average European American's heritage of Native American? So the average European American in America right now has twice as much of what her DNA results came back as. So she has less than the average, and she still came out with it. And then the Cherokee tribe comes out and denounces her and her stance of saying that and saying, no, you are not a part of us. Get off of our plantation, essentially. And then she had to roll back and say, look, I am not an Indian. I am not affiliated with any tribes. And so she took a big egg on her face because people wanted to go out and they wanted to go on the aggressive for her. They wanted to be defensive for her by going on the aggressive. And it just once again it causes the undecided, the independents to go, if this is what they're accepting, if she's trying to push this just for identity politics win, then I don't really want that. That's not for me. So you had the independents and the undecideds. They were like, not in favor of this. And then you had, of course, the Republicans going, look at this. We are fighting against phonies. We are fighting against big fat phonies. Let's go get riled up. Let's go get our buddies involved, and let's build on this momentum. And so you had those two big situations going on. And now we have another mishap coming, and I'm sorry to say it. Democrats are actually winning this one right now, in my opinion. And that is around this caravan. So, as everybody knows, there's a caravan coming from Honduras. They're right now in Mexico. They're 1,100 miles from their destination. So they've got quite a ways to go. They're expected to be here around the time of the midterms, and this is going to cause a huge controversy. Now, we've seen where they've used active violence. They've hurt a couple of the Mexican police officers. There's been violence that's been committed. There's been violence against people and against property. So it's obviously a movement that is dead set on moving. And the results. So Republicans have taken a hard stance. Conservatives have taken a very hard stance on this. They say, you will not come in here. We will utilize the military. We will enforce the border with our military. Now, that's not necessarily a bad idea, but the problem was that explanation ended there. What you don't want to say is, we're just going to put the military there and that's it. Because when you put that image in there, imagine you're going to school, imagine you're going to work, imagine you're going wherever, and you see the military lined up on your path there. Do you feel uneasy? Do you feel secure? Or do you feel worried? Do you feel happy? Do you feel safe? Do you feel like, what do you honestly think you're feeling in that moment? You're not going to feel like, hey, I can go and do whatever I want, right? It's an uneasy feeling. Now, a lot of people, a lot of the independents, a lot of the undecided people, they try to put themselves in those situations. Now, if somebody's trying to come here and seek asylum, like some of them obviously want, or if they're just coming here to illegally immigrate, like what we saw from some people, or if they're coming here to illegally immigrate the first time, it doesn't matter. Because when they come up, if they're just running into a military force, the idea is, this is where the explanation needs to be more thorough, needs to be followed on, is that the military is there to defend the border, to prevent people from entering. Those who enter, there will be attempts to peacefully arrest them, and should violence break out, they are there to neutralize any threats against the military or the people. Right? So it's not that they're there to be on the aggressive. They're there to defend the country. This explanation must be made, and every reasonable opportunity, every reasonable methodology in order to ensure that no one is hurt, no one is killed, no one is all violence is diminished as much as possible, must be taken on, right? The rules of engagement are very clear and they must be followed on this instance. President Trump has been very vocal about this. He's not going to put the National Guard there. He's going to put the military. He wants the military there. He wants to protect our borders. A lot of people are cheering this on. What the Democrats are doing, and this is where I think the Democrats are also winning, is the Democrats are just saying, look at how angry the Republicans are. Look at how much they hate these people. And they pull on the emotional heartstrings like what they've always been doing. They pull on the heartstrings again, and they're working up the independents. They're working up the undecided people. And that's going to be a big pivotal point for this. So we need to, if you are on the side that the caravan needs to be stopped, that it cannot enter our country, and honestly, I'm of that ilk, then we have to make sure that we're having a thorough explanation that is not just, we're not there to cause problems. We're not there to cause harm. We're there to ensure that people are going through the legal process in order to get into our country, that they are going through the legal asylum process in order to be processed into our country. And if they're not willing to do that, then there's a justification and there's a reasoning for the illegal immigration policies that we have to not just to arrest and detain, but also to deport them, right? There's a reason and justification behind those things. And so we have to make sure that we're having a more thorough discussion. And then the other explanation that a lot of us sound like we're echoing often. But it's important. It's not because of their skin color. It's not because of their nationality. It's not because of anything other than the idea that we do not know who they are. And having people enter our country means that we probably should know a little bit about them. We shouldn't just say everyone is free, everyone is welcome to come in here if you're worried about the sovereignty of your nation. This doesn't mean that we need to accept some of the conspiracies, some of the ideas. That there's a large swath of Middle Easterners or Africans and this group and that group joining in. No, right? We don't have to even accept that. It doesn't matter where they come from. We need to stop focusing on that. What we need to focus on is, hey, people cannot illegally immigrate into our country. They got to slow down. They can't do this. It's not acceptable. Stop it. Just wait until Obama runs the UN. Ugh. No, thank you. And so we got to slow down on these conversations. Take a second, think about what others, right? Sure, we want to. A lot of people on the right, they want to come out and they want to punch the libs. They want to punch the Democrats. They want to punch the progressives. They want to metaphorically do these things because they want the quick win. But what you have to worry about, and what everyone should be worried about, is the optics. Don't worry about the person you're discussing it with. Worry about the people that are reading your discussions. That's how you're going to be able to change minds. It's vital. It's absolutely vital. It's very important, right? We can all disagree on ideas, but you can make wins in other ways, and those wins are more important. So the caravan, the current caravan, the 14,000 people, huge issue, huge fundamental issue there. It needs to. I completely agree with President Trump cutting foreign aid. He called out Mexico, he called out Honduras, and he called out one other country. I apologize for forgetting which one it was. But I completely agree with that. I don't care what the reasoning behind it. I don't care that it's just because they won't stop this caravan. I'm just in favor of them cutting the foreign aid for every foreign country. But on this ground, on this merit that, hey, you're not stopping the caravan, you're not helping us, you don't get the foreign aid. I completely agree with that notion as well, off of the basis. But he's trying to make change. And one thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking, Parent Dome, welcome in. One thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking is that when people are seeking asylum, it's not that you get to pick whatever country you want to seek asylum in. It's that you have to seek asylum in the first country that you can get to that will safely harbor you. So all of these people, all 14,000 people that are within this first caravan, have already shown that they're not worried. They are not worried about seeking asylum in a safe manner or in the proper way. They are showing that they have an end goal, and that end goal that has been repeated plenty of times is that it is 100% America. They want to come to America. I believe they want to enter into California. It's kind of weird. I don't know why they would want to go into California. Maybe because California is not in favor of sovereignty. Maybe it's because they're not in favor of borders. Who knows? Of course it is. But so they've given up on the regular path for sovereignty. They've given up on trying to stop in these different countries, right? They went in, they broke into Mexico. They were breaking down walls. They were doing a lot of disgusting, violent things. They're trashing these cities that they're walking through. Not entirely just the fault of the caravan, but also because just the logistics of it is very difficult in order to have large crowds of people and dispose of trash properly. We see this at every protest out there. But it's so they broke into Mexico. They're trashing these areas. They're giving food and waters being provided to them, and they're continuing on. And the Mexican police, the Mexican border police, and the regular police as well, were originally there to prevent them from coming in, and then they were like, hey, we're not stopping here. And they're like, okay, you guys got us as an escort. So now even Mexico is jumping on board. with the idea of helping transport them here. So it's an interesting thing. I think that just because the end goal is USA, they don't really care that much. A lot of countries out there, especially in Central and South America, love to thumb their noses at us. And I think this is just another instance in which that is occurring. So, so that's just one caravan. Now there's reports out there that there's 2 more caravans that are being gathered. One that's being gathered and going to be starting from El Salvador on October 31st. So 8 days from now. 8 days from now, there's a plan for another migrant caravan to be built in El Salvador, and then there's another. This one's from Wall Street Journal. Another migrant caravan gathers in Guatemala. So in Guatemala, they're looking to have around 2,500 people. So we have 2,500 people in Guatemala. We got another big one growing in El Salvador, or being planned in El Salvador, via text messages, online chatter, and whatnot. That's being reviewed or being researched. So we have 2 more migrant caravans that are coming along, and so this is creating a weird precedent where this is a huge issue. If Trump is like Hitler, why do they want to come here? It's an excellent question, but it's creating a weird situation in which more countries are gonna. The fear is that they're gonna send more and more groups of people up here just to bang up against our border and try to take us down. I was listening to a couple of people, and oftentimes they're being viewed as conspiracy theorists. But their ideas was that was one of the things that these Central American countries were going to try and do. And that was, hey, we're going to just blow out the U.S. southern border as much as possible in order to fundamentally not only change America, but change those countries as well, right? Get some people out of there that you don't want there for whatever reason, whether they're good people or if they're bad people, send them away and be able to change up your own country, and then also change up the way that America functions. Now, with them being considered conspiracy theorists, I think that I wasn't certainly listening. I wasn't listening to accept it. I was listening more to debate it in some capacity. But these were discussions that were being held months ago. I'm saying back in May. So it's kind of interesting that they're coming and they're unfolding in this manner. But with one massive caravan and another 2 coming. Potentially coming, it's going to be an interesting time here in America. So we'll have to wait and see how all of this plays out. Now, in explosive news, or in booming news, if you will, in a New York suburb lives George Soros, and an explosive device was found inside of it. This is disgusting. Okay, if this is a political attack, and it potentially is, it's absolutely disgusting that somebody would threaten the life of somebody else, especially with an actual bomb. So the device was proactively detonated by Bomb Squad technicians from the Westchester County Police Department, thankfully. But on Monday afternoon, he had received a bomb, and the explosive device was found in a mailbox by one of his workers. So if the right, the conservatives in this country, the Republicans, they've always said, we don't resort to violence against those that we oppose, right? We oppose them with ideas. And if this was an actual right-wing person making this attack, not only is it disgusting and it reflects poorly on them, but the way that the left works, the way that they adhere to and hold on to collectivism in such a manner, they will use this as a club for the next 5 years and say, this is what the right does. They will try to do this, despite the fact that, you know, you have left-leaning, or not left-leaning, you have left-wing Democratic senators, members of the House, media hosts, journalists, and everything else, saying disgusting things like, we need to have mobs, we need to have riots, we need to have uprising, we need to get up in the faces of the Republicans and everything else, right? They're going to ignore all of that, and they're going to see this one instance in where somebody sent a bomb to somebody's house. I don't like George Soros. I don't like him one bit, right? I don't like his politics. I don't like that he's in favor of a centralized global government. I don't like, I disagree with him fundamentally on everything, okay? But I would never say, let's bomb him. Let's send a bomb to his house. That's disgusting, and it needs to be denounced by both sides. I just can't. I wish that more of the right-wing news would come out and talk about this. I know I saw the original article that I had originally seen was from Fox News, but I think this needs to be heard more on the right wing than it does on the left wing. And you know, we understand that the left wing versus the right wing, we will never see them cover the things that make them look bad, nearly to the same extent in which makes the other side look bad. Speech is not same as bombings. I agree. Yes, speech is not bombings. Okay. So, anyways, before I had somebody making comments that cars are not trucks. Okay. Anyways, so, oh man, I am so upset because I had this article open, and while we're talking, if we can flash back for a couple minutes, I apologize for getting this way out of order. But when we're talking about the Caravan, and when we're talking about them wanting to blow out our border and come into the country illegally and be here, when that, should that occur, right? Obviously, the illegal immigration population would grow. In 2016, I think it was. No, in 2000. So here, a couple of years ago, the U.S. government and most groups put number of undocumented immigrants, i.e. illegal immigrants, at around 11 to 12 million. But researchers from Yale and MIT give conservative numbers of 16.7 million in 2016 and an average of 22 million, according to Yale Insights right now. So 22 million illegal immigrants in this country. That fires up the conservatives. It doesn't necessarily rile up the libertarian base. That doesn't necessarily rile up the Democratic side of things. But it's obviously 22 million people. That's an absurd number, right? We are 330 million people in this country right now. So let me pull up the calculator real quick. There it is. All right, my calculator doesn't want to work. All right, sorry about that. So it's still 22 million, 330 million. So you're looking at like 1.5% of the population. 1.5% of the population is illegal just by being here. That's kind of a big deal, right? When people want to talk about trans community and they want to say, look at this is just horrible, right? You're talking about 1%, less than 1% of the population. When people want to talk about abortion, they want to justify it by rape cases or by incest. That's less than 1% of the situations. So what we're talking about is something that's bigger than those situations. And I think that I think that we need to put them into a scope like this. Obviously, illegal immigration is wrong based on the idea that you are violating the sovereignty of another country, that you're violating the sovereignty of a state, and you're not doing it within the rules essentially of what they said is acceptable or okay. But that's that. It's 1.5%. Big number, huge number. In the grand scheme of things, still not that big. Wars and violence cause refugees. I agree. Thanks, Breakman. And it's the media. That was another good point. So the media will only show the women and the children in the caravan. Yes, despite the fact that I think it's like 95% is really just men. It's young men, but they make up a large swath, a heavy majority of young men. So it's interesting. Your conversation is a little disjointed. I apologize. I've been jumping around a little bit. But yes, so the number is large, right? 22 million. 22 million people. Does anybody live in a city in where they have 22 million people living in their city, right? It's truly a rare feat. But there are a select number of cities around the world that have that many in them. Or in the surrounding area, I guess. So we're talking about the number of illegal immigrants coming into this country that are here illegally right now, roughly around 22 million. Huge number already. And they're looking to add via these. Looking to add from these caravans 14,000, another 5,000, another 7,000 maybe from the Guatemala one. How many Muslims? It's not that many. Men can be refugees. Yes, I agree with you. Men can be refugees, but men can also make change in their own country. So it goes against the notion that we just care about the women and children. That's the whole point of that. How can we get rid of the deficit? We can't stop spending money. So it's... I think that a lot of people are taking this to heart. And they're willing to die on these grounds about this caravan thing. I don't think it is necessarily as big of an issue as what it needs to be. I think that we need to protect our sovereignty of our nation. I think that the military being utilized in that manner is there's evidence to back the claim that these are invaders rather than asylum seekers, based on the idea that they didn't stop at any ports of entry, that they've blown through multiple countries that were willing to accept them, or at least talk about accepting them, but they blew through in order to come to America. The idea that they've attacked the Mexican police, that there are Mexican police officers that are in critical conditions from the actions of these people. The fact that they're displacing and attacking not just people, but also property and whatnot. So it does look more like an invasion than it does a refugee or asylum-seeking group that just happened to band together to move through this way. So it does look like an invasion. We should just kind of look at what the left media has been doing, and the left media... for the most part, has been ignoring it. They'll bring it up in order just to make sure people know that they know about it. But I think that's really the best thing that we can do. If you're on the right, if you're a Republican, if you're a conservative, hyper focusing on this isn't going to look good for the independents out there. So it's a big number, but it's small in comparison to everything else. We got to put things into scope. If these were men of integrity, they would stay and help their own people. Yes, and that's always been my big argument. So I know some of you have never been in here before. And if you guys haven't been in here before, please do hit the follow. If you're on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for doing so. But my idea, right, is the idea that when you take refugees from a country, so let's say you have country X, and country X sends 1% of its population, right, a huge overbloated number. You send 1% of the population. How much of that population that you sent would actually be able to make a fundamental change in the country that they live in, right? It only takes 3%. It takes 3% of a population to really be able to overthrow the rest of their population, right? 3% of the population fought in the Revolutionary War and made fundamental changes, right? 3%. So if you take 1%, you're really diminishing your ability to make change. And so there is an idea of calling these people cowards or calling these people weak for not for not being able to stand up on their core convictions and on their values and be able to make the change in their own country. I think that there is some merit in there, and there's certainly a justification based off of what your bias is in order to use this to expand on that and to strengthen it. And so, you know, if you're against illegal immigration, if you're against like helping out the rest of the world by maintaining your sovereignty or your nationality, it's another justification in order to support that. I don't know. I've never been a fan of saying, look, this country's in a poor condition, we got to take these people in. I think that there's a difference between that and looking at, hey, we are bombing the crap out of this country. Maybe we should take people in and provide for them because we messed up. I think that there's certainly a different argument there. Not necessarily a strong argument, since if you're bombing them, you're bombing their families, and then you go, hey, I'm going to take you in. I wouldn't expect them to be nonviolent asylum seekers to your countries. So, It's okay. I see it. 6 years of making fun of your idiot president. Well, at least you admit that he's going to be in for 6 more years. I was at least going to wait until, I don't know. Oh, no. I didn't mean to. Oh, no. Somebody, oh, no. If anybody knows him, I really want him to come back in. No. I didn't mean to block him. All right, anyways, I apologize for that if he does come back in. That was completely unintentional. I just want to see how many followers he had. So I think it's funny, right? So when people say, you know, I'm just going to laugh at your president for the next 6 years, at least you're admitting to that you think that he's going to win in the 2020. I'm still interested in seeing who's going to run against him in 2020. I'm still interested in seeing if there's going to be a libertarian candidate that's actually going to do better than what Gary Johnson did, have actual libertarian values that are going to reverberate with enough of the Democrats and with enough of the Republicans in order to ensure that they can make it to the 10%, to the 15%, and be able to be recognized on a national level. Not just for that election, but also for the follow-on election. I think that would be good for the Libertarian Party, especially if the Democrats can't win in these midterms, if they can't grab the House, if they can't grab the Senate, if they can't grab onto anything. This may be the start of the destruction of the Democratic Party. They're crumbling. They have no morals. They have no core convictions that are protecting them, that they're standing on. They're saying this is how we're going to fundamentally change what President Trump has done. All they've said is what Trump has done is bad. So if they've run out of ideas, essentially, they're saying, well, we're just going to raise taxes. That's not a good idea. We can't say that. We're going to do this. No. The population is not in favor of that. So everything that they're doing right now is basically just trying to deflect and be deranged. So it'd be nice to see if they are unable to win in the midterms, that they just fundamentally fall on their face, crumble to pieces, and then enable it to be the Republicans versus the Libertarians. That would be beautiful. Because then we would actually get to see a smaller government versus maintaining the same size government. And then I think more people would wake up to the idea that libertarianism is about the smaller the government. So, that's of course a discussion that we will have in 2 years. That'll be a discussion that we have in 4 years, 6 years, and every year on from here on out. So the comment was, I don't think the wave is as big as the liberal media is touting. Yes, I agree. The wave is going to be a splash on, I think, on both sides. I think that right now there is a surge of energy on the Republican side. We'll see a big surge in their votes, but it's not going to be across the country, and it's not going to be. So I think where we're going to see a lot of these surges, a lot of the blowout for the showings, or whether it's Democrat or Republican, would have been in areas in districts that were already going to be won by those Democrats or by those Republicans. So it's just going to see a larger showing for somebody who would have won without that larger showing. So I think it's really going to be a basically just a brag fest. Oh, instead of beating you by 3 points, I beat you by 5 points. Ooh, like it in effect, right? The big picture of it all, it's just going to be another splash. Yeah, liberal shit show on the 7th. Yes, it's going to be amazing to watch the meltdown. I know that a lot of people are going to be watching the left mainstream media on when the votes are being counted, see if they have the same meltdown, like just the catastrophic views of, we aren't winning, this isn't going our way. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. But I think that's really everything that I wanted to cover with you guys today. I appreciate you all for joining in. I feel bad for blocking 500. I really feel bad. I need to go find out if I can grab him. Beto had a Texas rally of 50,000. Really? When was that? Hold on, I gotta fact check this. Beto 50,000 rally. I don't know. I don't believe you. Oh, he had a concert. So he had Willie Nelson, who, you know, when you go to Texas and, you know, you have a lot of country. So here's what the wonderful Philly Fanatic has done, right? Philly Fanatic, who has been in favor of the Democrats for a long time, and that's fine. You can be in favor of huge government. I believe that you were in favor of Hillary Clinton during the election. Now, Hillary Clinton, in order to get a huge turnout, let's be honest, a turnout, was that she would actually have musicians play concerts. They would put on a show. They would put on a concert, and then she would come out and she'd be like, "Hey, I'm throwing this for you guys," and they're like, "We're gonna go get beer because we don't care," right? So Beto O'Rourke does the same thing. So Beto O'Rourke has Willie Nelson. Let me see who else is there. Oh no, they aren't even reporting on who the other people were. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. They just keep saying Willie Nelson. Okay. Okay, so basically Willie Nelson was, I guess, maybe the biggest name that was there. And he got 50,000 people out there. Sweet. I'm so proud of him. You know who the musical act was last night at President Trump's rally? It was the national anthem. Really? It was the national anthem. That was like the extent of real music that was being played. So you can either have your politicians use musicians in order to get a crowd, or you can actually be the politician for the people, and then you can try and compare the two. And I think that you're really comparing apples to oranges, because let's face it, if you have to use the following of another, if you have to use other people in order to get a following, I don't think that you really get to put yourself in the same category, right? But I think that's a farce, trying to compare the two. Willie Nelson wouldn't appear for Lion Ted. See, now you're just saying ridiculous, stupid things. Like, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who this musician plays for and who this musician doesn't play for. No, it's the idea that you had to utilize a musician in order to get a crowd there. That's the point that is much more important. That's the real impact of this. One person was able to go out and say, all right, there's 100,000 people that want to come here. There's 20,000 people that showed up, that made it in through the doors. And then this guy at a concert with a list where the A-lister, if you will, was Willie Nelson. I think that we can really compare these as two separate instances. So it's I think that you're entirely missing the mark on that one, Philly Fanatic, as usual. You are at least very consistent. I will give you props on that. You are very consistent on missing the mark essentially any time that you swing at the mark. So thank you for being consistent. Thank you for continuing on to make points that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, such as apples are not oranges. I don't remember what your exact what your exact quote was earlier, but you said, "Oh, bombs are not speech." Yes, I agree. Bombs are not speech. So, yes, thank you for being consistent on that. I appreciate you. And with that, everyone, with that last little bit of a jab, I hope you guys all have a great night. I will see you guys again. It's Tuesday night, which means the next time I'll go live is Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then, again, I will see you guys again on Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. But not this next week, but the week after that. So November the 6th, there may be a surprise show. There may be a surprise showing. So make sure you guys are staying tuned. You guys are keeping up. You guys hit the follow button. Because I will be guest starring on a couple other platforms. So it'll be a big day that day, of course. We'll have the elections. We'll be covering that. We'll be discussing what's going on across the country. We'll be unfolding the polls and talking about exactly what is going through the minds of the media. And I'm sure we'll try to get some overlays and watch the hysteria go down. So it's going to be a fun time. So make sure you guys are tuned in for that. So once again, I will see you guys this Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys for all joining in. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the likes, for the retweets, for the super hearts, for everything that you guys have done to help make this platform bigger. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys